Alright YouTube, this is Teu Cents back with my 2 cents on OCTOPATH TRAVELER, and today we're finishing up our series where we went weapon by weapon, talking about kind of the tier list and the usefulness of the different 4 stars and 3 stars, and of course our 5-star units for OCTOPATH TRAVELER. And today we're going to be finishing up with that Scholar weapon type, so you know, the Tome users. So if you've ever wondered why we keep seeing that Cyrus is coming, everybody's saved for Cyrus, everybody loves Cyrus, and you know, and I like Cyrus too. You know, we're going to talk about him at the end of the video, and we're going to talk about whether or not I think he's worth the hype that everybody's talking about. So you know, wait around to the end of the video if you want to see that, and let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start here with our 5-star units, Sophia and Theresa, and I had a really hard time picking who I wanted to be number 1 in this slot, and I ended up going with Sophia. I think just kit wise they're very similar. Obviously Sophia is an ice attacker whereas Theresa is a lightning attacker, but they do have a lot of similarities in being able to inflict a defense down for their particular elements, as well as buffing themselves up, as they both have a lightning and ice damage up for 30% for themselves. So definitely very similar kits in that regard, but I gave the edge here to Sophia, at least right now, because she's got that passive while at full HP. She's going to reduce her SP cost by 50%, and this is just overall going to help obviously for long fights or for times where you're just kind of out farming the world and doing other content, and then you can't be bothered to go back and heal yourself up or switch her out in combat for somebody else to, you know, raise her SP up. So it's kind of like a quality of life in that regard. But when their special abilities come out and, you know, you have the dupes to actually invest into them, I do think Theresa's is going to be overall better and is probably going to edge out Sophia with that 5 times lightning AoE. That's going to be 5 times at 100 power versus Sophia's, which is going to be a 1-time ice AoE. Even though it's at 450 power, Theresa's still going to win out on the power ranking there. And then, of course, if they're weak to lightning, you're going to get 5 shields broken versus Sophia's only going to break 1 shield if they're weak to ice in that you know, in that scenario. So right now Sophia going to be in that number 1 spot. Later on down the road, if we're looking at the whaling potential of being able to max out the special on both of these units, then Theresa I think is going to edge Sophia out at that point. However, if you disagree with that, put it down in the comments. Let me know if you think Sophia is going to reign supreme all the way through. So let's move on to our 4-star units. All right, looking at our A tier here, we're going to have Laura and Noelle. Laura, we're going to put her up into this kind of first slot because I do like this passive that is going to inflict 15% magic defense down to all enemies for the first 3 turns of combat. I think this just makes really getting things started off while you're trying to get the rest of your buffs and everything out. You're at least going to be able to start with a nice little magic defense down, going to have 20% lightning up, and then access to 2 times tome or a 2 times lightning, you know, single target attacks, as well as a lightning AoE. So I think if you don't have access and you really need some lightning attacker, you got a good one here in 4-star Laura. Obviously Theresa is going to be the you know, severe upgrade to her, but not going to be a shabby one if you need to bring another lightning unit along with her. So Noelle is going to enter the scene as the second one. We're going to have kind of more some specific things for her, where you're going to have a passive here that is just the 10% XP up for Noelle and the ally that she's paired with. So I do like those things. I do find them useful for when you're leveling new characters and stuff like that. So I always like to highlight that to showcase there are a lot of these units, and to make use of them to kind of help you. You know, leveling and XP in this game is one of the hardest things to do. So take advantage of the utility that they already provide for us for this. So as well, that Noelle is going to offer a single ally 15% magic and magic defense up, and a single enemy magic and magic defense down. So I think this is really a nice sort of debuffer and buffer that we're going to get out of here, as well as having an AoE 15% wind defense down. So if you're pairing, you know, her with some other wind units out there, or wind attackers for certain sort of specific enemies that have that weakness, this will definitely be a nice way of going about that. All right, and then into our B tier here, we're going to have Peredir and Hines. Peredir, his kind of claim to fame is going to be able to reveal weaknesses. So at the start of battle, he's going to reveal 1 weakness of all enemies. and then you can further use reveal to, get more weaknesses from your enemies should you choose to do that. Going to be a fire attacker with a fire AoE and a 2x fire single target and 1 tome AoE. So he's going to be useful in that regard. If you don't care about knowing the weaknesses on the outset, or you already know the weaknesses, his usefulness is going to fall down a little bit unless you're specifically needing him for the fire. So that's why he's kind of a little bit, lower down from our first two. Now Heinz, on the other hand, we're looking at just basically a straight dark attacker that does give himself, some magic up by 15% and magic defense up by 15%, but he has to buff himself to do that, and they're two separate abilities. And then at the start of battle, he does give himself another 15% magic up, but we're still, a ways that, you're only going to use him if you need a dark attacker here. So let's take a look at our 3 stars real quick and kind of maybe see some usefulness that they might have. All right, so here we're going to have Dolly, who's going to take this number 1 spot, because once again, we're going to have that passive of a 10% bonus XP. Like I said, I just like to highlight this. Really, you're only going to really, at most, use 4 of these at a time if you're leveling up 4 brand new units and you're putting these behind them. So you really just pick and choose. You're probably only going to really utilize a couple of them, but I do like to highlight that for anybody who is still looking for some. Definitely have this 10% XP up. We're going to have access to a 2x tome attack as well, and then some dark attacks, really just 1 on the outset, but later on when we get the special, we're going to have a dark attack that also inflicts dark defense down, which could have some usefulness if you get into some specific fights calling for that. So other than that, we have Eunice and Julio. We're just looking at some light attacker with Eunice, and then we're looking at an ice attacker with Julio. Nothing super interesting about their kits besides being able to provide that element down by 10% and being able to provide magic up in Eunice's case and magic defense up in Julio's case for themselves and their paired ally for the first 3 turns of combat. So not super great here. I don't think you're going to be necessarily building any of these units unless you're specifically needing them to fill some roles for these elemental battles that you might be doing. So now let's look at our Cyrus and try and figure out why everybody is valuing him so high. But before we get into Cyrus, if you're finding this information useful at all for your account, or any of my other videos have been useful for you, please hit that subscribe button. We got plenty more videos to come as the game progresses and we get more and more content for the global side. All right, so here's Cyrus. We got our passives right here. At the start of battle, reveal 1 weakness of all enemies. Sometimes I would hate for my attackers to be kind of wasting passives for, just revealing weaknesses like this, where you could technically just figure it out and restart the fight. However, his other passive kind of makes up for it, because he's going to give himself 20% fire, ice, and lightning damage up, which definitely means that he's going to have abilities that can do fire, ice, and lightning. So that's going to be super exciting. Now, as far as when he came out in JP, it was about 5 months-ish from the, the launch of the game over there. People over here, we've been speculating since the 2nd week of that Cyrus could be any time. And we kind of, still don't have any real clue when he's going to be coming out. So if you're kind of wondering on that, we're all still wondering on exactly when he will show up. But let's take a quick look at the rest of his kit here. All right, and this is going to be the reason that everybody's super excited about Cyrus. We're gonna have a 3x fire AoE, ice AoE, and lightning AoE. So he's going to be able to cover 3 different elements, which is just going to be phenomenal. As well as if they're not weak to any of that, but they're weak to tome, he at least has a 2x tome attack in there. You can buff his own magic by 15%. And then later on, where we're getting those specials, wow, we got a fire, ice, and lightning AoEs that are both, 225 damage, modifiers for him. So that is super exciting for a long-term unit. Definitely somebody that is worth the hype that he's been getting. So all the forums and everywhere where you see somebody talking about Cyrus, this is why he is so powerful and why I think he really kind of deserves that kind of spotlight. However, I still am not sure that when he is released that I'm actually going to pull on his regular banner. I am still of the mind that I'm going to wait for his step up and pull, you know, at least the first 3 sort of steps on his step up, which, you know, obviously could be a very long time, at least a month from his initial release. But as of right now, I'm just too excited about some of the other things coming out. Not that Cyrus isn't a great unit, but there's some other limited units or some collab things that I just need to save my free-to-play little rubies for. So anyway, that's been my 2 cents.